went under the wheels.
Perfected.
Welcome to Under the Wheels. I'm Matthew.
And I'm Gabe.
And in today's episode, it's our annual Oscar recap / top 10 of the year. I'm very excited about this episode today.
Yes, and because who knows when this is going to come out. The day is, it's April 18th. So this is a week before the Oscars. We don't know who's going to win. But, you know, either way, it's something, the Oscars are an event that we really care about and that we take very seriously. Here.
With a giant copyright. That's our slogan. The Oscars are something we really care about and we take very seriously. Oh my God. I forgot what it was. Like, I feel like I was watching something and someone was like, why do we feel like we care about these awards so much? Like, why do we care? It has nothing to do with us. It couldn't matter less to the common person because it's voted by people inside the industry. So what all is the point for us to obsess over it? And I mean...
Yeah, I don't know. Also, you want to know something funny? So I was putting together a list of every movie I saw that qualifies for an Academy Award and then ranked them. And I left Mank out of the whole thing because I forgot that movie existed. Like, Mank is not on the list at all. Like, it's not... Like, on the list of movies I saw this year, Mank is not there because I forgot that I watched it because it's fucking forgettable.
Anyway.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, who cares? It's like... Because, every industry has like an industry conference, and at the conference they may or may not give out awards of some type, and it's just like the Oscars are just that, but for Hollywood, because Hollywood's in the business of entertainment, they make a show out of it, you know?
Right.
It's like, I don't know.
They keep telling us that it's important as well.
Yeah, well, winning an Oscar is kind of like winning a J.D. Power and Associates award, but you know, instead of being voted on by like some third-party consulting firm, it's voted on by, you know, like your coworkers.
It's like those industry award, like you go and it's like, oh yeah, and the best person who said the introduction to your speech when you're on the phone goes to, drum roll please, where like everyone's eating really shitty food because like they couldn't afford a good caterer, so everyone's like, well, do I want to satiate my appetite or get food poisoning? And,
yeah, well, it's like if they gave out awards at like the Consumer Electronics Show or something, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's
like the award for best, like, you know, television concept goes to, drumroll, Samsung or whatever. Like that's what the Oscars are, but for movies.
Yeah, pretty much. And the thing is, there's like 5 other awards shows that like lead into it that kind of predict who's gonna win. That also are just insider industry award shows that are also sometimes televised. I remember when the SAG used to be televised.
Yeah,
and it was just
it's funny because
why?
And it's also the SAG is probably the best predictor of the Oscars, just because the Academy voting base is like 55% actors.
Mm-hmm. Not even like modern actors either. It's like old, like I remember starring with Olivia de Havilland actors.
Laurence Olivier is still voting somehow.
It's like, oh, I was the ass wiper of Laurence Olivier, and he gave me a spot on this, and I said a line, so I'm part of the SAG. Like,
okay, well, the SAG is different. You just have to like register basically, and then you're in the SAG.
Yeah. Well,
because there's plenty of people I
hard,
know who. Well, I shouldn't say plenty. There are some people I know who never can be in any of my movies because of the fucking Screen Actors Guild and their stupid regulations. And it's like, why are you in the Screen Actors Guild?
Because they accrued too many vouchers usually, or they said a line that they decided to keep in.
They were a featured extra on something.
Yeah, feature extra. Well, so what happens is if you're in a show or a movie and you have a line and you say the line, and then they decide that they're keeping your line in, they either have to make you, like, they have to force you to join SAG, or they have to hire someone else to re-record the line so that you don't get SAG eligibility, because a lot of people use that as like a fast track so that they can get in there. And then they'll start like, being like, ooh, I can start voting and affecting, the SAG awards with one vote. I don't know. But basically that's why, like, if sometimes it's really weird when you see like an extra and he's like an Asian guy, but then when his voice comes out, it's like a woman's voice. It's like, that's why they do that. Anyway.
Oh, I thought that was just because Hollywood hates Asian people.
Yeah, well, that too. I always think about the movie 21 whenever I think about Hollywood hating Asian people. But anyway, so let's talk quickly about Godzilla versus Kong.
Yes.
And we'll start here. What's your rating for it?
It's fine.
I'm going to give it a witness because I've got a soft spot for kaiju movies.
Yeah, I understand that. I wouldn't necessarily, like, this is just barely a kaiju movie because there's so much that's not giant monsters punching each other.
No, but there's giant monsters exploring things, which I guess is good.
Which is boring. I want one of these movies to just have Godzilla as the main character and be told from his perspective.
Yeah.
That's all I want. Because I don't care about the people. They're all written horribly. All the performances are terrible. The dialogue's terrible. Just get rid of all of it, Like, I was watching this with my girlfriend, and they have the opening scene where King Kong is bouncing around his fake Skull Island enclosure that is also on the actual Skull Island for some reason. Yeah. And there's that one lady who's like caretaker. I don't know what the actress's name is. And, like the first line of dialogue spoken in the entire movie, she's talking to some other researcher, and it's just a whole bunch of drivel about how, like, there can only be one Alpha Titan. They have an ancient rivalry, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, this dialogue is giving me a fucking mental illness right now. Like, it's so stupid. Every word that is said by a person is so stupid. And then, they got Brian Tyree Henry in there, who's awesome, except in this he sucks because he's just a bunch of, like, Alex Jones buzzwords compiled together with no real idea of what they actually mean in context. Okay. There's the chick from Stranger Things who just takes up space for no real reason. Yeah, and also it's like all the scenes with people in this movie, like the scenes with people all perform some function in these movies that is not really needed, like in the Gareth Edwards, yeah, Godzilla. They have Bryan Cranston, who's like a whistleblower or whatever, and it's like Godzilla blows up a city, and then he's like, the government's covering it up. People need to know, and it's like, who needs to know? We all know Godzilla blew up the city or whatever, or the other monsters blew up the city. Who cares? Like, why are they having this whistleblower cover-up storyline when we all know Godzilla or the other monsters did it?
Right.
We all know Bush did it. Why are they covering it up? And it's like the same thing here, except it's just like a UFC hype reel, Like if you ever watch like a promotional package for like a UFC fight, it's always got like Joe Rogan yelling about like, John Jones bows to no one. He is like the most terrifying force at 205 pounds. And then all that lady's dialogue about Kong is just, Kong bows to no one. He's the most terrifying force at 205 tons, Like, it's insane. Like, it's all just like a hype
Watch out for his
package.
left hook and his ability to use weapons.
Yeah, it's just all her dialogue is like just hyping up how awesome Kong is and how great this fight is going to be. And it's like, I already bought the fucking ticket. I don't need you to sell me on the fight that's about to happen, So yeah, it's moronic in every way. Oh, and then also it's like it's like the weird cover-up conspiracy plot. It's like we all know that the Apex Corporation is building Robo Godzilla.
Right.
Like before the movie was announced, we knew that was happening. We're like, oh yeah, they're gonna have they're like, oh, they're having Kong Skull Island tie into the Godzilla movies as well. Oh, that's because they're gonna have them fight each other, and then they have to put aside their differences to fight Robot Godzilla. Probably,
Yeah, of course, naturally.
And then because Hollywood is so incredibly predictable, that's what they did. But then they try to hide it by like, oh, it's a conspiracy. What's going on? It's like, we already know. We already know. Stop. Like, stop thinking you're smart. You're not. Just have the robot come out and have 2 hours of Godzilla, Kong, and the robot punching each other. Have a tournament arc. I don't care. Just have more monsters fighting. Have no humans existing or talking at all. And then the movie would be great. What do you think?
So I'm kind of like Austin is very forgiving for B movies that don't have like perfect, production values or, edits that cut cleanly between punches. I thought that the stupidity of Kong versus Godzilla was fine. I agree with you to an extent that like nobody cares about the human story. I think the only time it's actually good is when Japan does it. But even then it's like, all right, but we still want to see like Shin Godzilla, use his incinerator beam or whatever to take out Tokyo. So like, I mean, this is a UFC movie and, styles make fights. So the fact that Godzilla is just a big, heavy dude who can shoot things and King Kong has an axe, which isn't even as good as like in Kong Skull Island when he attached like the giant boat, like rotary engine to his arm and started going all God of War. I was like, all right, that's cool. This was like the God of War reboot when he's like, oh, now he just has an axe. Mm-hmm. Oh. But yeah, also, I thought the action scenes were fine. I kind of just like, I feel bad for Hong Kong because it's like every 10 years a monster movie comes along and just utterly destroys it. So
I know it's a really pretty setting to get blown up. What if
it's nice because they have their own,
like in the original Godzilla, Godzilla was a metaphor for like the anxiety surrounding nuclear annihilation.
Yeah.
And like the hubris of mankind. What if Godzilla versus Kong is really like a metaphor for how China is destroying Hong Kong right now?
Well, Godzilla would be like Japan warning everyone that American companies are getting together with Chinese companies in order to like think that they're better than everyone, but in fact are actually destroying the world. And then Mechagodzilla is the combination of the American and the Chinese companies. But Mechagodzilla getting its own conscience is actually just China pushing America out and destroying.
Mechagodzilla is China stealing other countries' IP and using it to
because
build
Mechagodzilla
is mass destruction and oppress Hong Kong.
Mechagodzilla is like the bootleg version of Godzilla. So there you go. It's like the Chinese bootleg Godzilla. I enjoyed it enough. I think that it was kind of the fight between Godzilla and King Kong. Both of them were sort of okay. I think it would have. The first one was kind of whatever. The second one, when Kong lost the second time, was like, is Kong really that good? Is he really like he's just a giant monkey who's just like
Kong's
being thrown
washed.
Around?
He's done. He's finished.
But then like throw in the towel, tap out, KK. He can't be King Kong because King Kong, I think, is owned by Universal, so that's why everything is just Kong, and they make allusions to it. Like,
that's hilarious.
It's he's the king, but he's not he's not actually King Kong, but he's the king of the Kongs on Skull Island. So, I think like Skull Island is public domain, Kong as a concept is public domain, but King Kong as a character is specifically licensed. I don't like how like Godzilla beats King Kong and then Godzilla can't beat Mechagodzilla, and then the teaming up between Godzilla and King Kong to beat Mechagodzilla is basically Godzilla throwing up on King Kong's axe, and then King Kong like goes savage.
Well, I was gonna say yeah, it's okay. I mean, the fights are fun. Everything else stinks. I think if there's two lessons we can take away from Godzilla versus Kong, it's that number one, styles make fights.
Yes.
Number two, MMA math doesn't work.
The transitive property of getting your ass kicked.
Because this happens in real life all the time. Like, it's Godzilla beat Kong pretty handily 2 times because it was a bad style matchup. Kong
Right.
gets his ass kicked by or Godzilla gets his ass kicked by Mechagodzilla, and then Kong beats Mechagodzilla because again, it was a favorable style matchup.
Yeah, it's a it's Fire Emblem. It's the. Did you ever play Fire Emblem?
No.
Oh, they have the weapon triangle, the weapon hierarchy triangle. Swords beat spear. No, swords beat axes. Axes beat spears. Spears beat swords. So you have an advantage if you're wielding a spear versus a sword. You do like triple damage, and can crit more often. So you have to like, oh, I got to maneuver my sword guy to take out the axe guy, but the axe guy's got to, it's like, okay, well, there you go. MMA in a nutshell. Play Fire Emblem.
Mm-hmm.
I will say one thing about like the human characters. Did you in Godzilla King of Monsters? I'm just gonna call it that. I don't know if that's the actual name. The human storyline was actually kind of like, oh, this is kind of like interesting and engaging, but it's taking away from the Godzilla time. So it's like they kind of had a hard time like getting the two to kind of mesh well. But it was like the storytelling was so earnest, and like all of the characters, there was like two corny characters, but everyone else was like in it 100%. In Godzilla versus Kong, everyone is like a corny, campy, like, hey guys, I'm not a real character. I'm just a jokey actor having fun. And like, I appreciate that. It's like, it's kind of good to know that this is the movie I'm getting into, where soon to be Viking Alexander Skarsgård is just like, I believe in the hollow earth and I lost my whole career because of it. Which, by the way, I thought you would appreciate the references to hollow earth.
I did
Because
appreciate
like,
the Hollow Earth
I was like, I get it now.
stuff.
I also worried though. I was like, oh man, people are going to use this as like confirmation that Hollow Earth theory exists. And there's a giant monkey in the middle of it.
A Hollow Earth is so much better than Flat Earth. It's not even close. Hollow Earth is fun. Flat Earth is just stupid.
Yeah, because at least if you're a Hollow Earth believer, you can be like, well, the curvature of the Earth does exist, but then when you go inside, it's all reversed and it's like a video game, and you can like
It's full of dinosaurs and monsters and stuff.
Oh man. All right, let's move on to the big talking point for today, which is the Academy Award predictions, as well as some of our thoughts on Academy Award winning movies. Let's start with music. I wasn't going to do this, but I was like, music's something we tend to talk about quite a bit, so I thought it'd be interesting to kind of... so the nominees are Da 5 Bloods, Mank...
For Best Original Score.
Best Original Score, yeah. No one cares about original song. Let's be honest. Da 5 Bloods, Mank, Minari, News of the World somehow gets a nod, and Soul.
So, yeah, it's interesting that Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross got nominated for 2 movies, 2 scores, one good one and one bad one. The score for Mank isn't bad. It's just not interesting in any way whatsoever. Whereas their score for Soul is actually pretty good. And they got John Baptiste on there as well, who does some good stuff. I think the thing that sticks out is that Tenet is not on there.
Yes, that's right.
Which is just stupid as hell, because like Tenet has the best score in any movie in like the last 3 years, I would say. Like, it's really, really good, the music in that movie. And the fact that it wasn't nominated at all is just baffling. And meanwhile, Mank, with its just farting trumpets for 2 hours or whatever, is nominated. And I don't get it.
Yeah. I think with like the nod for Mank, I feel like it's a because I can barely remember the score, but I think it might have been nominated as sort of like, oh hey, it's a gimmicky kind of score. It's like we have to have our jazz score in here, even though you already have soul in there. With that said, I know that normally when a category gets split like this, where like someone's nominated for 2 awards, it either they get all of the votes for one of them, or it gets split and then someone else comes in and wins. That's what happened with There Will Be Blood winning for Best Cinematography. People were split between The Assassination of Jesse James by the Coward Robert Ford and No Country for Old Men. And so then, There Will Be Blood was like, well, I'm pretty good too. And they're like, yeah, sure, okay. Anyone who didn't vote for Roger Deakins on one or the other movie, they're just like, yeah, give it to him. So I don't know if that'll happen here. You think it's Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross's award to lose?
I think so. Because I don't think no one's seen News of the World.
Right. Not
That's
even
a
me.
fact.
And I like movies like that.
Like, I want to see Minari, but It's $20 to rent, so no. The Five Bloods had some good music, and Soul had some good music. Mank did not have good music. It had serviceable music, but it's not you give awards out for things that are exceptional, not things that are functional.
I mean, or you don't. In this case, I'm actually kind of sad
In
that
this case you don't.
I'm kind of sad that because I'm looking at my hastily assembled top 10 list, and I'm actually kind of sad that Promising Young Woman wasn't on there for best score. But that's just me.
It's crazy how much news of the world pops up on these nominations. Like, which producer of that movie was like blowing everyone in the Academy?
They're like, Tom Hanks is in it. Obviously, it has like Tom Hanks is in it. Paul Greengrass directed it, so naturally we have to nominate it. That's just a given, right?
That's like a classic example of just Academy smooth brain thinking. Is like they just see Tom Hanks and just smash that like button. It's like a conditioned reflex at this point, you know. Like I'm pretty sure it's not even voluntary anymore.
Well, if that were the case, then Greyhound would have been nominated. So.
Wait, was that the submarine one or like the boat movie that he also wrote?
Yeah, man. Yeah, no one cared about that movie. Best supporting actress. Let's see here. Where are they? All right, best supporting actress. Actress in a supporting role. Maria Bakalova for Borat's subsequent movie film derivative. I can't speak today. Borat 2. Glenn Close, Hillbilly Elegy, Olivia Colman in The Father, Amanda Seyfried in Mank, and Yoo Jung Yoon in Minari. I apologize, Yoo Jung Yoon. I probably butchered your name. Don't hate me, because you're... Anyway, go ahead.
Dude, I haven't seen most of those movies. I mean, so Maria Bakalova does a really good job, but it's like, so does Sacha Baron Cohen. Like, their performances serve the same function, and they're both done just as well.
Yeah.
So it's weird that, like, she's getting the attention and he isn't. But it is what it is. Glenn Close, I don't understand. Like... Hillbilly Elegy, really?
Yeah, that's why I wanted to talk about that's why I wanted to hold off on Hillbilly Elegy, because I heard Hillbilly Elegy is a steaming pile of shit.
Yeah.
But I hear Glenn Close does a really good job in it. So, if Glenn Close wins, which he's kind of projected to, but not necessarily projected to win, but if she does win, it's going to be like she won the most prestigious award for a career, for like a very solid career in a movie that no one is ever going to watch again. It's like when the Danish Girl won for best supporting or best actress or best supporting actress, and we all knew that it was supposed to be for Ex Machina, but instead she's just like thrown into the Danish Girl. It's like, we know what the award is supposed to be for, but you're going to get this award with this movie that no one is ever going to watch again. So I thought that was, if she wins, I thought it'd be kind of funny.
Yeah, ironic, it's kind of like when Art Carney won Best Actor for Harry and Tonto instead of fucking Al Pacino for Michael Corleone.
Or like when
because Art Carney. Remember Art Carney? We got to celebrate the wonderful career of Art Carney, or whatever the hell his name was. I think it was Art Carney.
Or like when what was it? There was because I still watch The Departed a lot, and I still really like The Departed. But people said that Scorsese winning for The Departed was his Lifetime Achievement Award. I was like, oh, that's sad but funny.
Also, The Departed is maybe his best movie. So, other than Taxi Driver.
I wouldn't go that far. I love Goodfellas. I think it's kind of a cliche at this point that like.
Oh wait, sorry. No, yeah, I meant Goodfellas. Goodfellas is his best movie. Sorry, I was confused.
I don't know, man.
Departed is good.
I love The Departed, and maybe it's just because it's like such weird star power in there because you got like Jack Nicholson and you have Martin Sheen, and Jack Nicholson and Martin Sheen get a couple of scenes together, and Matt Damon is like very underrated in that movie with what he does. And
I take back what I said. Goodfellas is Scorsese's best movie other than Taxi Driver. Departed is very good though.
And Silence.
Yeah, I think The Departed is like it was kind of a. I'm trying to think if there was any movies that year that were better though.
I feel like The Departed was him as a gun for hire. Like everything that I've read, he had done commentary tracks for like Gangs of New York, the Goodfellas, Taxi Driver, and then when it came to The Departed, they just kind of like shat it out. And I like everything that I've read, he's not connected to Boston in any way. I think he might be a bit Irish, but you know he likes to lean into the Irish Italian part of it. So I think The Departed was just like, oh, here's a script. Oh, it looks interesting. I could probably play around with some stuff, but like on a storytelling level, he didn't do anything particularly like unique or revolutionary as far as like his own contribution to the script itself. But on a technical level, he did a lot of interesting things. He put in a lot of like little hints to other movies that he liked. The only one that stands out to me is like every time someone's about to get executed, if you look in the frame, there's an X. And so I thought that was interesting. So it's like a gun for hire, but on the highest technical level possible. And of course, that's the movie he wins Best Picture for. It's like,
yeah,
sure, whatever.
Dude, The Midnight Sky is nominated for Best Visual Effects because they had
blood coming out of that person's like face.
Oh, I take it back. That was pretty cool. Okay, they can stay.
They didn't watch the rest of the movie. They were like you. They were sleeping through it. They didn't appreciate George Clooney's ode to Death Stranding. Like no one does. No one does. So I will say that a lot of people are predicting that. I think this is probably the most open field. Maria Bakalova, as supporting actress, has kind of gotten the most steam, but I think Yoo Jung-yeon is getting the most awards. Like she's kind of coming in with the most. Like she's like the dark horse who's actually winning everything. So she's parasiting it.
It's just, I mean, yeah, I've heard amazing things about Minari. It's just, really expensive to rent right now.
Yeah.
So I was not able to see it in time for this show. Otherwise, I would have. Yeah, and then there's like The Father, which is just, I don't know. I'm tired of these like domestic dramas about like, oh, I'm old or someone's old or maybe has health issues and we're a family, but we don't all get along and we kind of have to navigate that. And it's like that's just people's lives. Like there's nothing interesting about dramatizing that, really. Unless you have like some really unique take on it, or if the movie is formally or technically very interesting or different. It's just like I don't need to see another movie based on a play about like it's like, oh, I'm a middle-aged woman and my dad is in his 90s and he has Alzheimer's and oh, what a pickle. And then you have Anthony Hopkins playing himself because he plays himself in everything, except now he's forgetting stuff. But it's Anthony Hopkins playing Anthony Hopkins forgetting stuff.
Is that's what the movie's about? Is a woman taking care of her father who has Alzheimer's?
Yep.
Based off of a play. It's like what was that other Anthony Hopkins? No, was he even in that? The Two Popes, where like the whole movie is shot like a Jason Bourne movie, but like the actual like material they're covering is like just straight out of a play.
Fucking Two Popes. Oh my god, I forgot about the Two Popes.
I think about that movie way too much. I think we'll have to eventually, like if we start a Patreon, we should have like a stretch goal of like, if you hit this number, we will watch the Two Popes and the Father back to back and make a podcast about it.
And try to figure out what the hell is going on.
I know. So like when theaters were open and I was living in Orange County, I would sometimes go to these movies, like these high prestige movies, because part of it was like, I'm curious, but the other part of it is like, oh, this is like a novelty for me. It's like going to like, I don't see these very often. I'm going to spend a lot of money to watch two people basically just live life like
Boy,
normal.
I can't wait to spend $15 to see Frost Nixon.
Hey, Frank Langella makes a great villain, okay? Like, he's made a career out of being a great villain. That isn't likable at all. But anyway, but I digress. But yeah, it's like, I can't wait to spend $15 to watch an after-school special with, like, slightly better cinematography and maybe accurate color grading. With that said, I love Olivia Colman. I think she's great. So,
she's really good.
Like, I think that Yu Jung Young is going to win. We spent way too much time on this category that we don't care about, but I would love to see Amanda Seyfried win because I like Amanda Seyfried, but I feel like she's the one person on here that's like, one of us doesn't belong, but I think she's great, and I think she does a really good job.
Yeah, she's good. Nothing to write home about.
Lifetime Achievement Award for starring in weird movies with Justin Timberlake.
Lifetime Achievement Award for having, like, eyes twice the size of her head.
She was in the first season of Veronica Mars, so it's really weird watching, like, hey, look, there's Amanda Seyfried, and now she's like, and then she hit her like 15 minutes of fame as she was like in a bunch of stuff, and now she's like not in anything anymore. So anytime she appears, I'm like, hey, she's still around, good for her. Like, as she's like tending to her like 3 kids and living her best life. Actor in a supporting role. We've got this one's. Have you seen this category before? Have you already looked at this category?
Yeah. So I'm just gonna say
this is a weird one.
What everyone's thinking. You should not have Daniel Kaluuya and Lakeith Stanfield competing against each other because one of them needs to win one actor award and then the other one needs to win the other one. That's
Agreed.
how this works.
Here's the thing. If Daniel Kaluuya... so quickly, a rundown. Actors in a supporting role. We have Sacha Baron Cohen for The Trial of Chicago 7, which is why he's not nominated for Borat. Daniel Kaluuya, Judas and the Black Messiah. Leslie Odom Jr., One Night in Miami. Paul Raci, Sound of Metal. Lakeith Stanfield, Judas and the Black Messiah. If both Daniel Kaluuya and Lakeith Stanfield, who are the stars of the movie, are in the supporting actor category, then who is the lead actor in the movie? Jesse Plemons?
I know. That makes no sense. I mean, I would say Lakeith Stanfield is the lead and Kaluuya is the supporting.
That's what I would say.
Bill O'Neill is the main character. So, yeah, I mean, I think this award obviously should go to Daniel Kaluuya, and Lakeith should be in another category altogether.
Agreed.
The other one that sticks out is Paul Raci in Sound of Metal. He's really good.
I haven't had a chance to see it. I hear it's really good, and I hear he is really good. And he was just like some unknown dude for a lot of his career, and then like had this like incredible role. That's what I've heard is the story behind it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, because he can hear, but both his parents were deaf in real life. So he plays the leader of like basically like a rehab center / group home for deaf people. And he's great. Like he is the guy. Like there's no separation between actor and character. He is the character that he's playing, and it's just
he just embodies him so well.
Yeah, it's amazing. So I wouldn't be upset if he won. But I think out of that crop, Daniel Kaluuya is the guy.
I think he's the guy too. A lot of people are predicting him to win. I think out of all of the categories, this is going to be the easiest one. I think it's Daniel Kaluuya's to lose.
Yeah, I'm a little sad Delroy Lindo didn't pop up in there for Defy Bloods. And of course, I'm always partial to Bobby Patz for any movie he was in playing a supporting role.
So which movie do you think he would have been nominated for if he were in this crop? Because you've got Devil All the Time, and you've got Tenet, and I think High Life maybe came out this year.
That was a year or two ago.
Was that last? Okay.
I mean, I think the sheer entertainment value he provides in Devil All the Time, considering he practically saves that movie from being unwatchable, is award worthy. But he's also like his James Bond audition in Tenet is pretty amazing as well.
That's true. It is.
It's weird that Christopher Nolan's good at getting like really great James Bond auditions out of some of our favorite actors. Like he got that out of Tom Hardy in Inception.
And then he got it out of Bobby Patz and Tenet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I have a weird like short list for who I think should be the next James Bond, but that's neither here nor there. All right, should we move on from supporting role, actor in a supporting role?
Yes.
All right, let's go to actress in a leading role. I guess I'm sexist because I do the actress and then the actor. So I'm sorry, Hollywood. For actress in a leading role, we've got Viola Davis for Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, Andrade for the United States versus Billie Holiday, Vanessa Kirby for Pieces of a Woman, Frances McDormand for Nomadland, and Carey Mulligan for Promising Young Woman.
I mean, Frances McDormand is like a 10-1 favorite to win in this one, I think. And she's really good. So I've seen all of these except for the United States versus Billie Holiday. Viola Davis and Vanessa Kirby are both really good, but there's a lot of theatricality to their performances that is just kind of a turnoff. Because they're both in movies that are based on plays. Right. Carey Mulligan is, good and Promising Young Woman. There's not a whole lot that she has to do performance-wise that's like really...
I disagree with you.
That makes you go like, wow, okay. Whereas Frances McDormand is kind of... Again, it's one of those where she just vanishes. Like, yeah, you could tell it's Frances McDormand, but like, there's no separation between her and the character she's playing, and it works really well in the movie Nomadland because Nomadland is like this very, it's very bicycle thief-ish, but good. Bicycle Thief sucks, but Nomadland is good. It's very naturalistic. There's a lot of non-actors in the movie. There's a lot of like real-life people who are actually just playing themselves. Mm-hmm. And Frances McDormand fits right in with them. So she's the favorite to win, and I can see why.
That's funny. That the couple articles I've read, I have not seen her as the favorite to win. I haven't seen I haven't seen Nomadland. But if I'm just going on, the only movie of these that I've seen was Ma Rainey's Black Bottom and Promising Young Woman. But I think that Carey Mulligan had to do a lot in Promising Young Woman that required quite a bit of peaks and valleys in her role, but also done in a way that was like subtle enough that it wasn't overpowering. So I want her to win. She's a very promising young woman, and I would love her to win for Promising Young Woman. With that said, I haven't seen Nomad. I feel like Nomadland is one of those movies that, like, it's so good and I should watch it, like, immediately. But the idea behind it and the way that you've talked about it makes it feel like a barrier to entry. Like I'm going to be watching a bad student film that got, like, an A-list celebrity to star in it.
Oh, my God.
I know it's not that. I know it's not.
I was going to say, like, Chloe Zhao's movies can definitely... It's what bad student movies are trying to be, but her movies are actually really, really good.
All right, we're going to shift gears. Actor in a leading role. We've got Riz Ahmed for Sound of Metal, Chadwick Boseman for Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, Anthony Hopkins for playing Anthony Hopkins in The Father, Gary Oldman for Mank, and Stephen Yeun for Minari.
So... I haven't seen Minari, so I can't comment. I haven't seen The Father, but I can almost guarantee it's just Anthony Hopkins playing himself. Mank, again, I forgot that movie existed.
I think I know who you want to win. I think I know who you want to win is going to be different than I think who ultimately wins.
Well, I think ultimately it's going to be either Chadwick Boseman or Gary Oldman. I want... whoever is not winning Best Supporting Actor for Judas and the Black Messiah to win Best Actor for Judas and the Black Messiah.
Yes, obviously. But we're not in that reality, so you have to choose one of these five.
Ugh. I mean, I want, like, of these five, I kind of want Steve Yeun to win because it's the one that no one's expecting. And Steve Yeun's a really good dramatic actor. Like, if you've seen Burning, he's incredible. It's probably not going to happen. Again, it's probably going to be Chadwick Boseman as the oh he died vote, or Gary Oldman as the it's Gary Oldman being Gary Oldman, isn't that cute vote.
Man, he does such a good job in Mank of being this like drunk, slurring, lecherous dude. I wasn't acting in those moments. That's just who I am. Oh, okay. Well,
It's like Gary Oldman did such a good job in Mank playing the bad guy from The Professional.
I think it's going to be Chadwick Boseman who's going to win. I thought you were going to say Riz Ahmed should win, but I didn't see The Sound of Metal. It's been on my list of movies to watch.
Riz Ahmed's performance is good, but in a better 2020 was a weak year for movies, which is something that it's a refrain that we've made continuously on this show. In a normal year or a stronger year, Riz Ahmed would be shortlisted, but not be nominated.
Yeah. Do we want to talk about cinematography?
Yes.
Okay. Nominees for cinematography: Judas and the Black Messiah, which is done by Sean Bobbitt; Mank, Eric Menderschmidt; News of the World, Darius Wolski; Nomadland, Joshua James Richard; Trial of the Chicago 7, Fedon Papamichael.
So first off, I think for some of these technical awards, people don't know what cinematography is. I mean, when I say people, I mean Academy voters, or what editing is. If you look at the
wait, hold on,
you look at the nominees for editing. It's do you guys know what editing is? That part of movie making.
But those are the Academy voters who are in the Academy for that category.
Don't actors vote on it too?
Not on cinematography, I don't think. No.
Oh,
I think
maybe not.
I don't know who comes up with the nominees actually. Let's.
But it's Trial of the Chicago 7, a Netflix movie got nominated for cinematography. Netflix movies categorically look boring.
Did you watch Trial of the Chicago 7?
I've seen the trailers for it. And I've seen plenty of other Netflix movies, and they're all pretty dang dull looking.
So
I mean, I could see Eric Messerschmidt winning. I mean, Mank looks very good.
Yeah.
And it's in black and white, so it's making all the it's getting all the super duper ancient Academy voters hard, which probably hasn't happened to them since the 80s. Or since The Artist came out.
Oh yeah, you're right. Oh god. The Mank is at least better than The Artist though.
Is it?
Yeah.
I don't hate The Artist as much as you do. I think it's charming, but
I think The Artist is everything that's wrong with Oscar bait.
And not Mank? Mank is not everything that's wrong with Oscar bait?
The only reason Mank is wrong with everything that's Oscar bait is because it was nominated. If it wasn't nominated, we'd be like, oh yeah, it's like Panic Room. We'd be fine with it, and we wouldn't have to talk about it again. And we'd be okay with, I don't know. I think we're on opposite ends where I like Mank more than you, but you like that shit piece that's The Artist a lot more than me.
Yep, I do. I'm irritated by Mank because it forced David Fincher to make a movie that's not super interesting.
I mean, I don't agree that it's not super interesting because I think the political stuff has actually stuck with me a lot more than other movies that I've seen. I like the idea of how Mank just goes in there and casually is just like, you guys make dreams come true. Why are you struggling so much to get this person nominated? And then you can watch something like The Trial of the Chicago 7 and see how easy it is for a filmmaker to completely manipulate you into thinking whatever they want you to think about anything. And that's a good point. They can do anything. Or the whole idea behind the guy who accuses Mank, he's like, yeah, I the producer who's like, I'm just a money grubbing whore and I don't get anything and I don't have any creative input, but at least I know what I am. And it's it is kind of refreshing to, I don't know. I enjoyed Mank well enough that I wanted to watch it again, but never had time. So I'm higher on it.
Although one note on that one character from Mank, the producer who's like, I know what I am.
Yeah.
I don't like that. I don't like people who are like that. I think ignorance is an excuse for bad behavior. I'd rather someone be a hypocrite where they can learn how they're wrong and fix themselves,
Right.
as opposed to someone's like, yeah, I'm a piece of shit, but I know what I am. And then it's like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, well, then go kill yourself. Like, if you know you're a piece of shit, then just remove yourself from the world. Like that.
Right.
That's the ethical thing to do if you're not going to change.
But he's making too much
either
money.
change
and he sleeps
or
fine,
die.
So it's fine. So I think the interesting thing on that is, yes, I agree with you. It's like the people who are like, I know that I'm terrible and I accept being a terrible person. Well, Mank didn't realize he was terrible. He didn't realize his own hypocrisy, and when he finally did, he put everything on the line for it.
Exactly. That's what you're
like,
supposed to do. It's like you realize
Right.
your hypocrisy and then you decide to do something different. But
Yep.
then, like, I think that's a very American thing to just lionize people. It's like, yeah, he's a piece of shit, but he tells it like it is, and
But he's
he
an honest
knows
piece
he's a
of
piece of
shit.
shit. He's an honest piece. It's if you're an honest piece of shit, just die.
You're
Like,
still if you're an honest piece of shit, you're
go
still a piece
away.
of shit.
You're still a piece of shit. Like, what? No one should like you. And if you like someone because they're an honest piece of shit, that's, your brain is smoother than an oil slick. That I don't know what else to say. Another note on cinematography. I really like the cinematography, especially the shot selection in Judas and the Black Messiah.
Yeah.
So I want that to win, but Mank is very good looking, and it's in black and white, so it probably will win.
Yeah, who would I choose? I'm actually kind of surprised you didn't go with Nomadland.
I mean, Nomadland is it's pretty, it's good. Like it's functional. It does everything well, but it's not outstanding on the cinematography front.
I'm not. I don't really need to go into costume design too much. I think it's one of my favorite categories though, because it's such a weird category. Because you have movies like Pinocchio in there, which I think is like, it's like an actual horror movie disguised as a children's movie because everyone looks like freaking scary. But I always find it interesting. Just a quick rundown: it's Emma, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, Mank, Mulan, Pinocchio. I hope Emma wins. It probably will win because it's a big, flashy costume piece where everyone wears like Victorian era outfits or Jane Austen era outfits. And the color scheme is really good and the production design is really solid. So I hope it wins for costume design. But that's all I really wanted to say about costume design, unless you wanted to talk about it.
Nope.
Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like it's a category you have no interest in. Since we did one of those, is there a category in here that you think I would have no interest in? Like, I don't know, documentary, short subject, or documentary feature?
It's categories I know nothing about and cannot comment on because I know nothing about them. Nah. Best film editing is interesting.
Yes. The Father,
like-
Nomadland, Promising Young Woman, The Sound of Metal, A Trial of the Chicago 7.
I can't think of any of these as being like again, they're all good, but it's like as being like a particular showcase of excellent editing, you know?
So I haven't seen Nomadland. The Father's a weird one, but I have a feeling that they do some editing things in there that involve, like Anthony Hopkins losing his mind. Maybe that's why it got nominated for editing. The one movie that should have been nominated that probably wasn't eligible for Academy Award consideration is Possessor, because they have those like really trippy sequences.
Oh, we'll get into Possessor pretty heavily later on.
But The Trial of the Chicago 7 is actually not... So Aaron Sorkin's known for witty back and forth, quick-paced dialogue. And out of all of the Aaron Sorkin movies I've seen, The Trial of the Chicago 7 is probably the one movie where his dialogue feels extremely slow and normal. So I'm surprised that it got there, except that there's a lot of cross-cutting dialogue that Aaron Sorkin loves to do, where it's like they're saying something in the courtroom, and then they're saying something on a stand-up stage, and then they're saying something to like a news camera, and then they cut back and forth between
That's
there,
at
which
least
is
neat, you know?
Yeah. So that's why I think that editing got there. There's a lot of that. And also the whole of The Trial of the Chicago 7 basically just follows the trial. So it has to intercut all of the things that happened leading up to the trial and all of the events of the trial into them presenting it. But I feel like that's more of a screenplay thing. But there it is in editing. So there you go. Anything else to say about film editing? What do you think is going to win?
I don't know. Based on the amount of cross-cutting that you mentioned, I would guess Trial of Chicago 7, but I don't know.
What do you think is missing here that you would have liked on here?
You already know what it is.
Judas and the Black Messiah?
No, a certain
not
Canadian science fiction movie that is absent from a lot of these.
Yeah.
But like I said, we'll get into that later.
Yeah, we will.
Should we go into just the big two, the top two?
Well, what about screenplay?
I don't know. It's just it's hard to judge a screenplay based on the finished film, because you don't know if like the screenplay is exactly reproduced in the movie or if the director just threw it into a wood chipper and kind of like created something completely new and different. Like Stanley Kubrick was known to do that, where he would kind of disregard the screenplay and everything that he'd done before and just be like, I need to edit based on what feels right. Like, I can't go based on any prior plans that I had. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, adapted screenplay is tough because I want to see The White Tiger, but I just haven't gotten around to it. Borat, it's like heavily improvised, so that you kind of have to like throw that one out. Father, don't know. One Night in Miami, you don't know. I mean, any screenplay that's adapted from a play, I don't care. So that basically just leaves me with Nomadland, which is it is good. It has like a good story, good dialogue. It's very naturalistic, so I like that. So yeah, Nomadland for best adapted, best original. I mean, Judas and the Black Messiah. Promising Young Woman is really really well written. Like the dialogue's very crisp and
but how much
keeps
of that
a good
was
pace,
improvised?
it moves really well, it's structured really well. What?
How much of that was improvised? Like as soon as
know.
Bo Burnham gets on there, I'm like, I think they're just doing improv.
I'm sure Bo Burnham riffs a lot, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's Judas and the Black Messiah and Promising Young Woman. Sound of Metal, again, it's good but not amazing. Minari, haven't seen it. Trial of the Chicago 7, haven't seen it, but it's Aaron Sorkin, so I'm sure it's not bad.
It's not good. It's not bad. It's just Aaron Sorkin. It's the boom catchphrase.
Lots of ponage.
Lots of, not as much as you would expect. Surprisingly, there weren't as many. It was done in a different way. I would say I would hope that like Judas and the Black Messiah one, although I really, especially, we haven't talked much about Promising Young Woman. I'm sure we will, but because it's on my short list. But Promising Young Woman, I really liked the screenplay, especially because I haven't read your review on it, but I was worried about the ending, and something happened in the ending, and I was really down, and then they ended up bringing it back into an almost perfectly satisfying way. So that from my end. So like the screenplay was consistent throughout until the end, where it takes like a very, very negative turn, and then they kind of turn it back around. And also it's a revenge movie done in a way that I see very few revenge movies done in, and so I kind of appreciated that as well. But as far as adapted screenplay, I mean,
well, we can get into it in a minute because I'm sure it's on your top 10 list or top whatever.
Yeah, it is. Okay, so we'll do the big two. Where are you directing? So directing, we have another round. Mank, Minari, Nomadland, Promising Young Woman.
I mean, I personally would give it to Chloe Zhao for Nomadland because it's a production that spans a huge swath of the United States, so that's logistically very difficult. It's a mix of real actors and real people and actors and non-actors, and it's pretty seamless. All the performances working together, like no one sticks out as being like kind of not belonging in the movie. And it's really good and really like emotionally resonant. So I think out of these, Nomadland has got to be my pick. I mean, Thomas Vinterberg's a weird one because he's known, he's Danish. Another Round is a Danish movie. And it's like, it's just kind of weird that he popped up on there.
Yeah, I was going to say, but does that mean that it's guaranteed to win Best Foreign Film?
Probably. Which is weird because I've heard like Thomas Vinterberg seems like a guy who makes really good movies that are often like have very upsetting subject matter. And then Another Round seems like kind of a generic movie about addiction. It's like it sounds like Sound of Metal, but without all of like the deaf sound design, which is like if you're going to watch The Sound of Metal, watch it for the sound design because it's actually pretty cool. So yeah, it's like I'm just like it's weird that Thomas Vinterberg's on here, especially if you're like including international movies now. It's like that and not any other non-English language movie, but yeah, okay.
So I guess Minari count? It's not a foreign language film because I think it takes place in America. I'm guessing
It takes place in America, and the director Lee Isaac Chung is American.
Okay.
Whereas, oddly enough, Nomadland is like super duper American, and then Chloe Zhao is from China. Like
But
she's
she's like-
from China, born and raised, but makes like the most American movies ever. They're all about like cowboys and Indians and the open plains and like survivalists and stuff. And it's just like this is interesting.
I mean, if Kurosawa lived now, he would totally want to come out to America and make his own cowboy film. So I can see the appeal. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
I can see the appeal. So if Judas and the Black Messiah were nominated, do you think that would have taken your place instead of Nomadland?
It might have to be a tie if that was the case.
I've only seen 2 of these movies. I think from what I've read, Nomadland is going to win. The only other thing is I think David Fincher might win for Mank because
they're going to give David Fincher a Lifetime Achievement Award too.
He hasn't won, has he? He's never won an Academy Award for anything, has he?
No, the closest he ever got was The Social Network.
God, he should have won that year for The Social Network, but you know where I stand on that.
I mean, he should have won for Zodiac way back in the day. I think the problem is that movie
nominated?
came out in 2007, so that means it would have had to have booted out both Paul Thomas Anderson and the Coen brothers.
That whole year was just like split down the middle, like, well, who can we not divide it between? Well, that was There Will Be Blood year, right?
Yes.
Yeah, shit, that was the year of the really long or long-feeling movies. Because No Country for Old Men isn't that long, but if you've never seen it and you're watching it for the first time in theaters, it feels long in the best way possible. So
It's funny. I wanted to see it in theaters, but never got around to it because I was 12. And eventually just caught it on TV, and it blew my mind. I was like, holy hell, this movie's amazing.
My fun story is I went to see it because a friend of mine and I were talking about, like, I was like, I'm so sick and tired of handheld camera in every single movie. We're going to go in and watch No Country for Old Men, and I bet it's going to be nothing but handheld camera. I guarantee you there's at least 3 shots of handheld camera in this movie. That was, of course, before I knew who Roger Deakins was.
Okay.
I felt pretty stupid after coming out. I was like, oh my God, all the slow-paced camera moves. But I was like, oh, there's one. Yes. Oh, there's one. Yes. Okay, we're good. We're good. Oh, God. Almost lost that bet. But anyway. All right, Best Picture. Nominees: The Father, Judas and the Black Messiah, Mank, Minari, Nomadland, Promising Young Woman, Sound of Metal, Trial of the Chicago 7. What do you think is going to win, and what do you want to win?
I think Nomadland's going to win. I want Judas and the Black Messiah to win.
Yeah, I agree. I think Nomadland is probably going to win. It's got all of the momentum coming in. Mm-hmm. But I think Judas and the Black Messiah should win. But as you know, I'm a big fan of Promising Young Woman. So
Yeah.
I don't think it should win Best Picture, but that's like my dark horse. I think that Judas and the Black Messiah is probably a confluence of all of the things that a Best Picture winner should be. But I don't think it's going to win.
Yeah. Do you want to get into like top 10s or into why you like Promising Young Woman so much?
Let's see. My top 10 currently has 13, and they're not in any individual order. So I feel like I need to eliminate some.
Well, it's got to be no more than 10.
That one I can.
Otherwise, you're cheating.
Zack Snyder's Justice League doesn't count, does it?
No, it doesn't qualify because it came out in March. Come on.
No, I know. I'm trying to decide if I want to. Let me see here. There's a couple that are gonna make you cringe.
Okay.
I think I'm gonna take.
Well, you're
I'm gonna take that one
restructuring
off.
yours. I'll just read off mine.
Yes.
So I'd go 10 Pieces of a Woman somehow. I don't know how it got to 10, but it did, so congratulations. Number 9, Soul. Number 8, Promising Young Woman. Number 7, Da 5 Bloods. Number 6, I'm Thinking of Ending Things. Number 5, Nomadland. Number 4, and this was kind of a surprise, but Tenet. Number 3, Judas and the Black Messiah. Number 2, The Invisible Man. And number 1, Possessor. Should I read it again but slower so you have more time, or what?
What? Pieces of a Woman's Soul, Promising Young Woman, The 5 Bloods, I'm Thinking of Ending Things, Nomadland, Tenet, Judas and the Black Messiah, Invisible Man, and Possessor. The movies this year had too many titles that had really long titles.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Me. So we should also qualify that this list is movies that we've seen, because I'm sure that if I had seen Nomadland or a couple of these other ones, very high chance that they might have made my list as well.
Yeah, like if I'd seen Minari, I'm sure it would sneak onto the list in some way, shape, or form and boot Pieces of a Woman off. Which I'm still surprised that's number 10. It's weird, but I mean, it is a good movie.
Yeah. So why? All right. So my 10 in no particular order because I didn't have a chance to organize it. But a lot of these are not necessarily. Some of them aren't necessarily the quality of the movie itself, but kind of just the emotional reaction to it. So, well, I'm just going to read them off. So, The Gentleman, The Invisible Man, Da 5 Bloods, Hamilton, Tenet, I'm Thinking of Ending Things, Possessor, Promising Young Woman, Judas and the Black Messiah, and Happiest Season.
Wait.
Yes.
Wait.
Yeah.
Disney parking a camera in front of Hamilton was one of your best movies of the year?
This is why I said you're going to cringe. So here's why. I think I've watched this 3-hour spectacle all the way through maybe like 2 or 3 times.
Wait, how have you watched that piece of shit 3 times, but it takes like 5 weeks to get a podcast out?
Because I can't edit a podcast while I eat dinner, but I can put on 1 or 2 songs from Hamilton while I eat. It's probably the closest I'll ever see to like a professional production of it. And they didn't have the sort of like, they didn't do sort of like the embarrassing thing where they just recorded one showing of it with a bunch of different camera angles. And they didn't do the cringy thing where they like made it Les Miserables. They actually took, like the people who originated the roles and recorded it over a couple of nights, which is kind of awkward because you can see like the bags under Lin-Manuel Miranda's eyes get like thicker and thicker as the show goes on. But like it was a theatrical experience that if I could have seen it in theaters, I would have enjoyed a lot. I understand all of the sort of hostility against the play itself. I understand a lot of the kudos and plaudits that it's received. And it just kind of continued to stick with me, even if I'm not like watching it or, exposed to it. There's like the music that's really good. The way that they use I could see being in the theater watching it, how they use the theater space, the lighting, all of that stuff really interestingly. The fact that there's multiple layers to the way the narrative is told, how the music kind of helps to reinforce the narrative. So, and the fact that I can watch it like, pretty much I was able to watch it basically for the cost of a subscription, and not have to worry about like, oh, am I spending money on seeing a ticket? Do I have to worry about like a guy eating a sandwich and like orgasming during the sex song? And it was different. Sometimes I like something that's different, and it was different in a way that it was executed very well. So that's why it's on the list. Also like, what would it have been replaced with? Like, Soul or Onward? I didn't love Soul enough to put it on my top 10 list, and I didn't love Onward. I felt Onward was too contrived to put on my top 10
At
list.
least Soul is a real movie.
Well, Hamilton wasn't technically Academy Award eligible, so, you know, just swap out Hamilton with Soul, I guess. But yeah, that's my justification. You don't have to like it, Gabe. You don't even have to accept it. You just have to, like, listen to me. That's it.
Well, I listened. My penance has been served.
Yeah, well, there were a couple, like, I had to jump into the 2021 list just to make sure that I had them on there, because I feel like the latter half of the year ended up getting better, and a lot of the movies that would have been released earlier came out the next year, and they would have been eligible. I'm surprised that Wonder Woman 84 didn't make your list.
It just missed.
Wow, Pieces of a Woman doing that much heavy lifting.
Mm-hmm. Wonder Woman 84, I think, is number 12.
Oh, wow. What's number 11?
Sound of Metal.
Birds of Prey. Oh. Okay. Interesting. There were a couple that I didn't see that I wanted to, like News of the World. I wonder if that would have made my list, because I like Westerns. I like Tom Hanks. And I like Paul Greengrass as long as he's not doing the Bourne movies. Mm-hmm. So I'm kind of curious if that would have made it. Let Him Go with Diane Lane and Kevin Costner as like a modern Western, but like with the mom wanting to take revenge. Sounds kind of like my kind of a movie. So
speaking of revenge, let's talk about Promising Young Woman, because it's on both our lists. We haven't really talked about it on the show.
So what is your...
really like it.
I did. I was really excited for it, and like it executed for me. No pun intended. What do you give it? I didn't read your review, and I don't have it pulled up.
It's like a high witness, low shiny, borderline type of movie.
Yeah. I would probably put it the same. I'd probably just give it like a low shiny for me, because after I watched it, I processed it, I thought about it, and I still really like it. Like, so I guess it's shiny and chrome for me.
Okay.
Like I like revenge movies. This was a revenge movie, but it was done in an interesting way, even though the revenge plot doesn't really kick in until like a quarter of the way into the movie.
Almost halfway into the movie.
Wow, was it really that long to take? Because like
it felt like halfway into the movie.
I felt like they took a long time to establish like what she did, even though the trailer established what she did incredibly quickly. But of course, you know, the narrative muscles and everything.
I guess I'll get straight into the bad about it, in spite of the fact that it is actually pretty good. The trailer seems to have a more coherent idea of what's happening than the movie does. Because it's unclear if she's like a serial killer or just like a serial prankster. You know, she pretends to be drunk, gets taken home by these guys, and then there's some sort of confrontation, but it's kind of left unclear what that confrontation is.
Yeah.
Like in one case, she just kind of spooks the guy and leaves, whereas in another case, like she walks home covered in blood, or like got some blood on her. So it's like, oh, she killed the guy. Because like in the trailer, it looks like she killed the guy. She killed the guy. Cool. Whatever. She's a serial killer. Fine. But then like as the movie goes along, like all her revenge schemes are so toothless. Like she doesn't really harm anybody at all. She just like kind of gives them a scare and is like, gotcha.
You're not going to do this, Gabe. You're not going to ruin this movie for me. Go on.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, but like, yeah, so she just kind of like scares people, and it's like, ooh, gotcha. Made you think, didn't I? And it's like, what? I would have liked this so much better if she was just a morally questionable murderer or something. Because it's like, what makes the movie interesting is that what makes any revenge movie interesting is that the hero or anti-hero has a moral quandary, right? They feel wronged and they have this intense need to correct the wrongs, and they do so by like killing and destroying people and doing horrible stuff. But in this, it almost seems like they tried to make her too kind of squeaky clean in a way, where she gets back at people, but not in any permanently damaging way, for the most part. So that I don't know. Maybe they were afraid that audiences would judge a woman doing this more harshly than a man who just goes around killing people for revenge. But it's like, I would like to think that audiences are progressive enough that if they just made like Lady Death Wish, we'd all be okay with it, and that kind of sanitizing it the way this movie does is not necessary. But it just creates
Yeah.
this unnecessary confusion of like, what is she doing? Why is she doing it this way and not in a harsher way? Especially considering how grave all of these wrongs are to her, and given the way that her perspective is portrayed in the movie, where she takes what she's doing very seriously. She takes the like all the sexual assault stuff like very, very, very seriously. This is very dire to her, and it killed her friend, right? So you think like, oh, she's out for blood, because that's what her mindset would lead you to think she's out for. But instead, she's just like kind of pranking people and scaring them, but not doing anything.
John Wick, but instead of John Wick, it's Ashton Kutcher punking people.
Yeah.
If I made a thumbnail for it, it would just be like Carey Mulligan with Ashton Kutcher's face on it. So
Yeah, and it's like
it's a good thing we're not doing an episode.
It's a really good movie. It's a really good movie. Like the performances are good. It's fun. It is thrilling. There's some good twists and turns. Carey Mulligan's great. Bo Burnham's great. It's awesome to see Clancy Brown as like a normal person.
Yes, that was a
It's great to
standout
see
moment.
like Alfred Molina playing like his character from Boogie Nights, but like just fatter.
I was gonna say, I feel like Alfred Molina was like, he's very underrated in this movie, and like Alfred Molina is
super
almost always
underrated.
really good, but like I'll get into that when I talk about it. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, yeah, that's all. I just wanted to give some positives because, again, I like the movie. I think it's very good, but that it's a little incoherent.
Yeah. We're gonna go full spoilers for this, so I'm sorry, people who are listening that haven't seen it. If you have not seen it, definitely go out and watch it, because it's the movie that when I see people, I'm like, you should watch Promising Young Woman. So I was really excited about it because I heard that I like saw the trailer and I thought the concept was really interesting. Like, oh, the quote, like, incel nice guy type, like finally getting their comeuppance. But of course, like, the movie portrays these nice guys by casting people who are generally likable and like generally seen as nice guys, but then they have them do like just enough stuff where you're like, no, you're a creepy guy. You're not really a nice guy. You're just like a creep. So it kind of undermines that a little bit, because like when, what's his name, Adam Brody, who was in the movie The Kid Detective that I never got to see, but I really wanted to, that might have made my top 10, but I digress. Like in the scene in the very beginning with Adam Brody, he's like, oh, hey, my apartment's right around the corner. Let's go there and have a beer with this girl who's already completely intoxicated and sloshed and might throw up. And I'm like, do people really like, what? This is not like the nice guy playbook. And then when he takes her there, he gives her the drink that has significantly more than he does, and, convinces her all this stuff. And I was like, so it's not exactly the stereotype that they're trying to break down, like that internet troll who's like, I'm such a nice guy, why doesn't she like me? Like, it's not exactly that caricature. It's like, oh, it's a sinister guy who clearly did this kind of thing in college and blah, blah, blah.
Well, they do that more later.
Just like the nice guy who never got anywhere kind of guy.
Well, just people who seem nice on the surface, but are actually much more sinister.
I mean, I guess so, but yeah,
Like
especially
Christopher
when
Mintz-Plaisse's character,
yeah, and he's like doing coke, and he's like, no, you should do coke with me. I was like, hey, he's still alive and acting, yay! It's good to see him in a role. But I agree with you. I think in the moment, the kind of vengeance she's getting, where she's kind of like taking the moral high ground and like owning them Aaron Sorkin style, like it's so satisfying to me. But you're right, there is no like it's basically just like getting spooked by the boogeyman. It's like,
yeah, it feels weirdly empty. And then the other thing too, it's like it has all of the kind of cliches of revenge movies, where it's like the main character has no life, she lives with her parents, she's just a wreck, and you'd think it's like, oh, she's like this because she's a like a serial killer whose sole purpose in life is murdering people. It's like, no, she's just like kind of a wreck.
Well, she's like it's like the
But
death of her
it's like,
friend caused the spiraling of depression that put her in this position.
yeah, but look at like it's not quite a revenge. It's kind of a revenge movie, but You Were Never Really Here, right? Joaquin Phoenix lives with his mom, but he's also like going around killing people all the time.
Yeah.
Or it's like okay, big spoilers. She dies at the end,
Yeah.
and when she dies, it's just like, huh? Like she didn't even do anything the whole movie, and then she's just dead. You know, where it's like that, and it like the ending just kind of. I thought the movie was great up until she died, because it's like,
I did too.
that just kind of sucks all the air out of the room, and it's like, what narrative purpose does this serve? Nothing, as far as I can tell. It just feels weird, and it comes out of nowhere. And it's like maybe they're trying to say, oh, like women, you know, try as they might, like the patriarchy will still stop them, even if they're, I don't know what the fuck they're trying to say by having her get killed off. But the thing is that it's a lot more palatable for your anti-hero to get killed off if they're doing things that are really morally not good, you know? Like,
right.
if her little notebook of tally marks, if she's like Mr. Zaz, where she just tallies everyone she murders, and she is killing these guys and like chopping them up and stuff, yeah, when she dies, it's like, oh, okay, well, you know, it is what it is. It's what happens when you try to kill a bunch of people. But no, she's just like pranking dudes. Gotcha, bro. Don't rape people.
I mean, yeah,
it's like, it's just weird. It's weird. It doesn't work.
Okay, so a lot to unpack there. One, my feeling on sort of like the revenge she's getting, I thought it was interesting that she was more interested in getting psychological revenge over just killing them. That's why I like it. But you're right, it does, like a lot of her methods, like there's no sort of follow-up that would be required in sort of like a psychological reconditioning of these people. So that's one problem. And the only time you see that is with like Alison Brie's character, when she comes and she's like, oh my God, you've been dodging my calls. I need to know, was I date raped? Blah, blah, blah. And I was like, wow, that's really effective. That's why I say in the moment, all of it's really effective, because the scene with Connie Britton where she like goes back and she's like, that scene where Carey Mulligan goes back to the college and talks with like the dean of admissions or whatever. That scene is like perfect to me. Like the way that it escalates, the way that tension is built, the way that like Connie Britton, who of course like at that point you would think that she would like stand up and call the cops on her.
Yeah.
But like I feel like all of that moment is just so perfect. And then like the after effect of like, well, is she suffering psychological damage? Well, we didn't have time to show that follow up.
Yeah.
The like, Alfred Molina scene I think is also interesting, but I'll talk about that in a sec because I want to get to the death part.
Well, so one thing on the Alfred Molina scene, it's the only, because Alfred Molina is the only one who regrets what he did.
Right.
And he apologizes and says like, I want to make it right. So she lets him off the hook. But it's also the only one where it's implied something violent was going to happen to him.
Right. Yeah.
Because there's like
there's going to go in and tune him up.
Yeah, like there's some guy waiting outside his house. Like, do I need to go in? And she's like, no, you're good. Yeah. Where it's like, I think the movie would have worked better if, like, say Alison Brie was like, you know, it's like, I've been trying to, like, did something happen to me or something? And then, you know, even if nothing happened to her, actually, if, you know, the main character was just like, I don't know, I left, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I think the implication is, like, weeks have passed with her thinking about this.
Yeah, exactly. But it's like, you kind of need that. The movie needs to be more fucked up than it is. Because it's like,
I think it's a levels thing. Like, I think it could have gone a little bit further in certain places, but I was kind of happy with where it was. I think it was still too extreme for a lot of people.
Really? She doesn't do anything. Yeah. Like, her best friend was like gang raped and then killed herself. And she derailed her entire life to take care of her friend and then go on this quest for revenge, which isn't even a quest for revenge. It's just like
She's
a
like she's
weird
like the
it's like
date
a
rape
weird
Batman.
hobby. Yeah, and it's just like I don't know, like the crime is so extreme and the punishment is so mild and then she just dies anyway.
I think that the death part was supposed to shock you back into like the moment, because I remember when that happened. I think everyone hates that. I don't know if it went through any reshoots, like if they did any pickups later to kind of like solve it. But like
I
I
think they
was
they reworked the ending so that I think it was supposed to just end with her dying and that's it. But then they added the
really
wedding stuff later to like
see
tie
because
things up.
so like I don't know where you stand on it, but I like how the movie ultimately ended with like they bring back Alfred Molina and they give him the phone, and like this is, she chose very carefully who she was going to give all that stuff to. Like I like how that worked. Um I can't imagine the movie without like the sort of final nail in the coffin justice thing for that one guy who always plays the nice guy and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Which ironically, like he was, I know that you're not going to care about this, but the guy who raped Carrie Mulligan's friend is also in Veronica Mars. And that one dude who's his best friend, who's like the asshole that plays the asshole in New Girl, he's also in Veronica Mars. So it was like a weird Veronica Mars like crossover, and all
I
they
don't
needed
know
was
what Veronica Mars is.
it's a TV series with like a dedicated fan following that like had a really good first season and then just kind of petered out.
Okay.
But if Kristen Bell played as the main character in it, then it would have been like a full-on Veronica Mars reunion, and it would have been crazy. But anyway, I digress. But yeah, having the main sort of her main antagonist getting some sort of like revenge, even though I described it to my fiance afterwards, and she's like, "So he's just gonna get like a high price lawyer and get out of prison, right?" And I was like, well, I mean, yeah, probably. That's
Well,
probably
I
what's
don't
gonna
think
happen.
so, just because the evidence is
Pretty
pretty
stacked against
solid.
him. Yeah.
Um, but still, it's like I don't know. I don't like I said. I don't. I can think of reasons why they might try to kill her off. Um, and things that they might be trying to say with that happening, but it doesn't work narratively. Like I think everyone hates it because it like there's just an instinctual reaction of like this feels off, like it's just weird, it doesn't fit. And then like adding all that stuff at the end to try and like tie it up a little neater. I mean, I guess like it's the best they could have done with the hole that they wrote themselves into, but it's just like I don't know.
I
Like I
so
would it would almost make more sense as an ending. It would make more sense if she lives but goes too far, even for her.
like the whole getting the dude caught on his wedding day.
No. Like if you want an ending that's gonna like twist the knife or shock people or whatever,
Yeah, yeah,
like if she kills everyone at that bachelor party and burns the entire cabin down,
yeah. That would
like
have
that
been
would be where it's like people stop rooting for her. That would be something. Or like if she does that and then dies in a shootout with the cops or something like that, or dies
yeah,
in the fire herself, you know.
yeah. No,
But
I agree with you. Yeah,
it's just like that, like killing her off like that. It just doesn't work. To quote Todd Howard, it just works. It just doesn't work. It
it
doesn't
doesn't. It
work.
just doesn't. No, I agree with. And so let me read you a passage from the Wikipedia article. Originally, Fennell planned to end the film at the time Cassie's body was burned, but the production's financiers balked at having a negative ending. She also considered an ending where Cassie appears at the wedding and kills responsible men, but deemed it unrealistic. I would have liked that. She decided to have the ending where Cassie has a backup planned revenge, as she felt Cassie would be thorough in her planning and would be aware that she could die in her final mission. Additionally, the director stated having Al apprehended at his wedding would reflect Cassie's sense of humor, which is why she plans that event. So like I agree with you that her just dying and her getting burned would have just been such a downer. I think everyone
Well, it's
feels
like,
that way because everyone hates
yeah,
that ending.
it's also just like when you kill off your main character, you have to be doing it for a reason. You got to say something with it. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
And it's
Or
like
if it's
my big beef with Uncut Gems. That movie's great. It's tons of fun to watch, but Adam Sandler just dies at the end, like randomly, almost. It
right.
just comes out of nowhere. And you're kind of left with this. It happens so suddenly, and then the movie just ends almost immediately after that. You kind of have this. I kind of had this feeling of like, well, then what was the point? You know, like why? Like what did we learn from that happening? What is the movie saying by having that happen? Is it his comeuppance for all his just stupidity? Is that
But
it?
wouldn't you
I
but
don't
wouldn't you say the
know.
point that you're asking questions isn't that a good like isn't that a quote good thing unquote?
No.
Like that's probably what the filmmakers intended. Or in the case of Promising Young Woman.
Here's why asking.
Yeah,
Here's
go ahead.
why. In a case like this, here's why I think asking questions could be a bad thing. You know, it's okay to ask. Like a movie that provokes you to ask questions is usually good, but if you're asking why a particular event in the movie happened because it doesn't make any sense, that's usually not a good thing. Because if the filmmakers are trying to say something, it should be pretty clear for like a specific incident. When you're
Yeah.
talking about asking questions, that usually works better when you're talking about the movie as a whole. You know, like the movie
So
as an entire work makes you ask questions, but you don't want to be questioning the specifics of a particular incident because it's kind of like, you know, any work of art is like a conversation. You know, the artist says something and then the audience hears it and says something back. But if you know, you mumble your way through a sentence to where the audience can't hear what you're saying, they're going to be asking questions, but they're not good questions. They're not thought-provoking questions. It's just like, what the hell was that?
so as far as Uncut Gems' ending goes, because I think like if Promising Young Woman ended that like Uncut Gems and they just like she had complete creative control and just ended it there, um, I, yeah, I would have hated it, but I would have been like, man, the rest of the stuff that happened is so good. But in a movie like Promising Young Woman, you want something satisfying. With Uncut Gems, you can counter that with just watching Good Time, and like the ending for Good Time is so much. It's a similar feel, which I think is what they were going for Uncut Gems, but it works better in Good Time because it's like the idea of no matter what good Connie's trying to put out there for his brother, it doesn't matter because ultimately Connie's not,
Well,
that
so
kind of a guy, and it makes sense that he gets captured at the end.
the key difference between the endings of Uncut Gems and Good Time is that Uncut Gems, Adam Sandler gets shot in the head after he wins. Like he wins, he proves everyone wrong. He succeeds in what he's been trying to do for the whole movie, then just gets shot in the face. And his store gets robbed. And then the movie ends. That's it. With Good Time, it also ends sort of abruptly. It's a situation where Connie is continually trying to stretch his luck. And eventually he stretches it to the point where it breaks and he gets arrested. But that's not the end of the movie. Because even though his story
right
ends
It
at
then
that
cuts
point,
to the
he
brother.
still has... It cuts to the brother, but also off screen, he still has one choice left to make. And when it cuts to the brother, we understand what choice he's made. We understand the transition he's had. You know, where it's like the whole movie, you're right, he it's like this giant shaggy dog story where he's just continually pressing his luck. It is, in a way. He's trying to save his brother while also without having to sacrifice himself, right? That's his whole thing. He's trying to save his brother without sacrificing himself or compromising himself in any way. And it keeps just stretching his luck further and further and further until his luck runs out and he gets caught. But when he gets taken in, you know, he still has the opportunity to throw his brother under the bus or accept responsibility for everything so his brother can go free. And he makes the choice to say, no, I'm going to take the heat for everything that's happened so my brother can go.
Yeah.
And that's why that ending works, because he still has a choice to make, and he makes it. And you see the after effect of it.
Well, so to that note, I mean, with Promising Young Woman, if it did end with just her dying and then the movie ended that way, I would have hated it, but I would have understood, because the life that she was leading to that point of being, you know, Ashton Kutcher, but like a poor man's version of Ashton Kutcher who lived at home.
A promising young woman's version of Ashton Kutcher.
Promising young prankster. It could only end in one way. She could only go so extreme, and then bad things would happen. And so, like, I think it would be one of those things where we would kind of like roll our eyes and be like, yep, but even, you know, the best laid plans, her as an individual versus like a group of people, there's no way she would have been able to get out alive. If she did kill everyone at the thing and light the whole cabin on fire and then just go crazy, I think I would have been okay with that as an ending. But I think like the ending that she ultimately, where she's just gonna like carve Nina's name into the dude's body, like the freaking girl with the dragon tattooing rapist on the one dude. I was like, yeah, that would have been good. But I think they wanted the sort of like the shock factor. But you're right. It does turn the movie into like a Shaggy Dog story. It's a Shaggy Dog movie, which is a category of movies that I'm not a fan of. And
I mean, The Good Time is one of my favorites, and it's a Shaggy Dog story, but it works. You know, it just depends.
Did we just coin a term? Did we just coin a genre of movies? Shaggy Dog movies?
Well, there was already a genre of story, though.
Yeah, I know. Well, I know there's Shaggy Dog stories, but most of those don't become movies unless they're French. I mean, like, hi, Breathless over there, just chilling. Guy kills a cop. Guy ends up dying by a cop's hands. What happens in the middle? Nothing.
Yeah.
Makes me want to puke indeed.
Oh, did you want to still talk about Promising Young Woman?
Yeah, just a couple of few quick things, because like we did talk a lot about the story, which I think that the individual moments of the movie are really good. I think Carey Mulligan has to do a lot of work to kind of create like a realistic enough quote unquote character, and also keep up with Bo Burnham's like off the cuff remarks and like reacting to them, which she kind of does okay in certain spots. My favorite being, awesome, I'm gonna go buy you a bicycle. That was my favorite line of his. Out of many, there were many great ones in there, but I think like she's really good because she has to balance like being, you know, a stone cold sociopath
prankster
with a stone cold prankster who has like the poker face of Matt Damon in Rounders, where he's just like staring at the camera trying to think of like if he has an STD or whatever. Matt Damon drop right there. But also, you know, she balances sort of like her breaking down and her own kind of coming back to normal life. And then when she like the obviously the Academy Award winning moment is when she's watching the phone video and she's like breaking down while she's watching it. And, you know, you can only imagine how bad the video is, which my mind went to horrible places. And I was like, oh my God, this is intense. But I think she handles all of the peaks and valleys she needs to really well. And she gives you a very good sense of who the character is and is consistent throughout the whole movie. And a lot of it has to do with subtlety. And also her American accent isn't like the worst thing ever. So, you know, I always appreciate
She's always had a good American accent.
She has. And also like from a casting point of view, I thought that the movie was like perfectly casted, which is, you know, it's like, it's pretty obvious. Like a lot of movies are casted really well, but I felt like everyone was really good. And people who I wouldn't have thought in those roles being put in them was really good. And I kind of like the weird morality it kind of hints at, but doesn't explicitly go into. So and it was just a very watchable movie. Like it moved at a pretty good pace in my mind. It kept me engaged the whole time. It asked questions and then answered them in a good way. So like the one appears and I'm like, why is there a giant eye on here? And then you find out why. And like, so from an editing point of view like that, it was really good as well. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it does a lot of things really well. It uses slow push-ins really effectively.
Yeah.
I think the
Production
chemistry
design's really
between
good too.
Carey Mulligan and the production design is great. The chemistry between Carey Mulligan and Bo Burnham is great.
Yeah.
And it does, it definitely has like a point it's trying to make, and it states it very clearly and very loudly, which I appreciate
Yeah.
from time to time.
You appreciate it when it's done well.
I appreciate it when it's done well. Yeah.
Are there any movies on either of our lists that that we hadn't talked about this year that we wanted to talk about?
What's Happy Season?
Happiest Season is the lesbian Christmas movie with Kristen Stewart and Mackenzie Davis.
Yeah, don't know, don't care. It's on your top 10, so I'm assuming you liked it.
It was more of an emotional, like, it's a very cliche movie. You can see all of the things coming as they're coming, but it's done well. It's like, it's really good execution to a concept that has a slight spin on it. It's holiday movie with a slight spin.
I think the thing for me, because we're talking about the Academy Awards, is Possessor is so amazing.
Yeah.
And if I was the only voting member of the Academy, Best Picture, Possessor. Best Director, Brandon Cronenberg. Best Editing, Possessor. Best Cinematography, Possessor. Best Visual Effects, Possessor. It's just Best Production Design, Possessor. Like it would just boom, 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 boom down the line.
Yeah.
I mean,
best use
score
of
would be
e-cigarettes.
Yeah, best use of vapes, Possessor. Best Supporting Actress, Andrea Riseborough.
Best Supporting?
Because she's not really in much of the movie.
I guess not.
Best Actress, Elizabeth Moss for The Invisible Man.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just like Possessor is so good. And 2020, there's a lot of movies that are like good but not amazing, or they do like some things well, but they don't do other things as well, or they're not like shining examples of technical and artistic achievement in any particular area. Whereas like Possessor is an achievement in fucking everything. Everything that goes into making movies, Possessor is an outstanding artistic and technical achievement in that thing.
Yeah.
It's frustrating. The Academy is in love with itself. It's in love with stuffy period talky dramas where it's just folks in puffed up fancy clothes yell at each other for 2.5 hours about the past, and maybe someone is like sick or disabled or a minority, and there's like political commentary sometimes, and that's all they care about. They don't care about great filmmaking. They don't care about anything, any type of movie that's not that. No genre filmmaking, even though genre filmmaking is such a stupid fucking term anyway. Like, yeah, Possessor's science fiction, but like it doesn't follow any, there's no generic tropes or conventions for it to follow. It's just a movie that takes place in the future. The Invisible Man is a horror movie, and it doesn't have it doesn't really follow any horror tropes or conventions. It's just a movie that's thrilling. It's infuriatingly stupid how the Academy goes about what they do, and their fucking biases and their narrow-mindedness. And it's like, I don't know, they get in trouble a lot for not being diverse, but it's just like there's no artistic diversity.
Right.
Which is the big problem if you're an arts industry event. There's no artistic or creative diversity. It's all just realist dramas about ordinary life for the most part. And it's infuriating because the world of cinema is so much bigger. And it's like you don't have to, to increase the artistic diversity, you don't need to start nominating Godzilla versus Kong for stuff. You just need to find the really good shit that's out there. That's not your period piece drama about people who are old and out of touch and younger people who are not so old and out of touch and the conflicts they have, and someone has Alzheimer's and another one is in the closet, and it's on the eve of World War II, and there's a lot of irony because World War II is about to happen, but they don't know it yet, and it's like, fuck, who the fuck cares about all of this? Who cares about Mank? Fuck Mank. Fuck the King's Speech. Fuck all that. Sorry, did you have something to say?
Do I have anything? I mean, like, I think you hit it on the head. The thing about like Hollywood is so obsessed with diversity that they can't even recognize their own lack of diversity in artistic or creative field, which is, you know, what they are. And I think like that's kind of also important to address, even because you can have something that's, you know, made by a diverse group of people that also covers diverse subject matter. I'm guessing Nomadland is kind of like that.
Kind of, yeah. It's a little unusual.
My thing about the Academy is, how much do you think they're going to overcorrect, since Parasite, which probably had no business being there in the typical Academy structure, except that it was about,
except that it's amazing.
Modern day. Well, right. But normally movies like that, I think it was probably just commercial enough, or like just Academy Awards baity enough, that it could get past all of those filters that the Academy has put out to weed out movies, any other movie from Bong Joon-ho, except for maybe Memories of Murder. So, yeah. I mean, like, because Possessor was about domesticity, it was about class warfare. It was done during the modern day. So it's like, you know, it's very much like the same ground being covered by The Father, but it was a foreign film. It was taking the concept not so much from a character level, but from like a societal level. How much does the Academy overcorrect? I don't think they're going to overcorrect that much, because the overcorrecting movie to win would probably be Mank. I would guess, right? Like, to me, it's a shame that Judas and the Black Messiah won't win, because it's basically taking a genre film, which is like the undercover cop genre, putting it in a historical context, and then shooting all of the emotions to like 21.
Yeah.
So
it's great.
Like, that would be an interesting way for the Academy to go.
And it's just like they care so much about like race and gender diversity, but it's like, rather than have Da 5 Bloods, they would rather reward Ma Rainey's Black Bottom.
Right.
Which is infuriating, because it's like, both movies, black cast, black crew, talk about black issues. But Da 5 Bloods, very creative, very inventive, and technically interesting, and creatively interesting, and artistically interesting. And it's doing cool things with how the movie is structured and how the story is told. And it's like, it's changing style as it goes from time period to time period. And it's got that signature Spike Lee, like, throw the entire kitchen sink of cinematic techniques into the pot and see what happens. And the results are great. But no, they would rather reward black people in just a boring, awards bait, typical Academy movie. And that's what pisses me off. It's like, it doesn't matter who's in front of the camera or behind it. The same movies are getting nominated. The same movies are winning. It's so stupid.
Yeah, I agree. It's the most conservative version of the type of movie that they think needs to be out there is what gets nominated. Because what was it? One Night in Miami, that was passed over for Ma Rainey, probably because Ma Rainey also had, the over the top performances going in like full tilt. So that's probably more the reason that and I'm sure Denzel Washington's name carries a lot of weight with the voters. And it's
Chadwick Boseman died, so
And Chadwick Boseman died, so I mean, not that he's not bad in it.
He's good in it. He's very good in it. But it's just it's like, it's a movie based on a play. There's a million of them. They're all kind of the same.
And it's not even done in an interesting way.
Yeah, well, it's just like, there's a lot of Ma Rainey's Black Bottoms out there, but there's only one Da 5 Bloods that I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And that's my sticking point with the Academy, is they will nominate and reward the same thing over and over and over and over again. But when something really unique comes along, like Da 5 Bloods, like I'm Thinking of Ending Things, like Possessor, they ignore it.
Yeah. Well, In the case of some of those, though, everyone ignored it.
Well, but it's not the Academy's job to pander, you know.
Right. Because if they did, if they were pandering, we would see things like The Invisible Man in there, or, you know, I don't know, nothing really huge came out. That was like, it's weird because it's like, it has to be seen by a certain percentage of people, right? So like, if in order to get that prestige title, it can't be a huge blockbuster movie that comes out. It can't be a great movie that no one engaged in. In the case, that's what I always think of with I'm thinking of ending things. Like, it's such a good movie, but it's so hard, I think, for people to engage with it. So a lot of people won't see that. But people will watch, you know, Anthony Hopkins sit around and forget things.
Who?
You know, people
who is
will
watching
watch,
The Father?
like a bunch of old British people who are smoking out of their pipes and getting lip cancer, or like all of the old people who are like, oh yes, Alec Guinness used to make me comb his beard, like those kinds of people. Or like I had watched The Queen, and I was like, the filmmaking in here, like, no offense to Stephen Frears, but like the filmmaking in it is fairly pedestrian. Like, there's no sort of interesting visual flair, and you get that a lot with a lot of like older British directors, not like Gareth Evans, who's like, who doesn't know how to not film something in an interesting way.
Yep.
But like, you get these older people who are like, ah, yes, this great prestige movie that I will watch on the BBC in 3 months when it gets ported to the BBC. I will watch this. So like, I think you get a lot of people like that who will be like, oh yeah, I'll watch The Father. It's been seen by just enough people, or like Minari has been seen by just enough people.
I don't think anyone's seen Minari. Like I said, I'm sure it's good. I don't think anyone's seen it.
It's like the only people who have seen it are the people who printed it on those, like the entire Asian American community and people who print the DVD screeners that they send out to people.
Yeah, it's just Parasite was such a great win for like creative diversity, because it's a movie with Asian people in it, obviously, because it's Korean. It was made in Korea. So you hit there, you know, the Academy gets to say, oh, we don't just give trophies to white people. We give trophies to other people of other races too. But but Parasite's a great movie, and it's different from any other kind of movie you would see, unless you just have seen everything that Bong Joon-ho's made, in which case you know to expect the unexpected, but you don't know what that unexpected's going to be like. And it's just like, I want more movies like Parasite to win. I want more movies like No Country for Old Men to win.
Which did win.
But that's what I mean. I'm trying to think of, I'm grasping at straws, trying to think of movies that won that were like the good ones, you know?
Yeah. It's getting to the point where it is not enough to just be nominated.
No.
You know, like everyone's always...
Parasite has to be the best picture because it deserved it. I mean, I still think The Lighthouse was a better movie, and I wish but Lighthouse was never going to get nominated.
Right.
It's too weird.
But even like, that's my issue with Possessor, is like Possessor is too weird. It's too cold.
But it's the best picture.
Yeah, I would say
think
that
it is the best picture.
I think that Invisible Man is probably more, in some ways it's more accessible, because for Possessor works on such a high artistic level for me, but there's none of the emotional connection. Whereas The Invisible Man, it just, even though it takes a couple notches down for the artistic value and like the creativity, because my God, there are things in Possessor that I still have no idea how they did.
Yeah.
But like Invisible Man would be like, that would be a perfect Best Picture winner. Well, no, it wouldn't. I think Judas and the Black Messiah should win this year. But in any other year, Invisible Man would take, well, except for last year. So 2 years ago, when Green Book won, Invisible Man should have won, or it should have been shortlisted. It definitely should have been nominated, and it definitely should be winning more than it is, both box office wise, Academy Award nominees wise, everything like that. Elizabeth Moss deserves so much more credit. Lee Wannell deserves all of the praise for how he did not only like balancing emotional value versus theatricality, but also coming up with creative ways to portray the invisibility of what's going on. And it's like one of those movies that I wish I had seen it in theaters, because watching that in perfect surround sound where you're not sure where the sound is coming from because the visual information isn't giving anything away. Like, put it on there. We need more diversity. We don't always need personal stories for Best Picture winners. We need some exciting stories. We need some engaging, some spectacular stories. In any other year, I would have, if Tenet were just a little bit better, I would have loved to see it on the Best Picture list. I don't think it's quite good enough.
If the Academy wants to be an insider circle jerk, which is what they are, then they can give Best Picture to Spotlight every year, which is kind of what they do. If they could do that, give Spotlight Best Picture every single year, I'm sure they would. They would just like, oh, Spotlight won this year. Next year, it'll be Spotlight with a slightly diverse cast. The year after that, it'll be a Spotlight with some diversity behind the camera. But it's always going to be Spotlight. And it's just like, if you want to be an industry circle jerk, then that's fine. You can do that. But then that's all you're going to be, is an industry circle jerk. You can't pretend to be the vanguard of artistic excellence when you're not, when you don't try to be.
Right.
If you want to be the vanguard of artistic excellence in filmmaking, and you want to claim that, you have to hand your little golden statues to movies that push the medium forward, that do something with film that hasn't been done before, or do it better than it's ever been done before. You have to do the movies that are weird and inaccessible, because they may be weird and inaccessible right now, but a lot of the times those are the movies that set the tone. 20 years from now, you're going to have filmmakers who watched them, and then that's going to be the vernacular of filmmaking. So like no one is making movies right now thinking to themselves, wow, I really loved Harry and Tonto. Harry and Tonto made me want to make movies. How green was my valley? I'm really so glad that won Best Picture. Yeah, that really cool editing technique that I used that was really effective in this acclaimed movie that I just made. I got that from Harry and Tonto. I got it from How Green Was My Valley. Like that's never gonna fucking happen, right? You know what movies inspire people? You know what movies get remembered? You know what movies like create the best movies of tomorrow? It's Eraserhead, It's fucking it's Blue Velvet. It's The Magic Mountain. It's El Topo. It's Once Upon a Time in America. It's The Lighthouse. It's Parasite. It's Possessor.
So I agree with you. I agree that the Academy needs to look in the future, and not the future of the two popes, but done like a Jason Bourne movie. It's always going to be my go-to for like the worst type of Academy Award bait. It's just like, these seem like divergent ideas. Let's put them together. Like, that can work sometimes, but I don't think the two popes is where you want to try it. Or with like Les Miserables, where it's like, and this over the top like rock opera musical from the 80s, let's shoot it like it's freaking Saving Private Ryan.
I know. You know what? The Bourne Identity is one of those movies that pushed the medium forward. Like, that's a movie that should have gotten awards for, setting a template for how filmmaking is done.
Doug Liman, man.
Fucking Doug Liman. He's just a crazy person who's impossible to work with, but he does good stuff. There's no arguing with that.
I guess. What's that Daisy Ridley Tom Holland movie that just came out that no one wants to see?
Looks so bad. It looks so bad.
He's either like amazing and ahead of the curve, like The Bourne Identity, I guess Swingers. Well, yeah, I'd say Swingers. And Edge of Tomorrow, like probably his three best, and then the rest of it is like Mr. and Mrs. Smith, which I haven't seen, so I shouldn't accuse.
It's
Looper.
whatever.
Looper is so bad, but it's so good. I can't explain it. It's so bad. It shouldn't, it gets all the shit it deserves, but my God, I enjoyed the shit out of that movie when I was watching it.
But yeah,
it is my garbage.
Speaking of movies that push the medium forward as well, like, what about everything that Spike Lee has ever done and the Academy continually ignores him in spite of, like, this whole, like, Academy too white, gotta put more, racial and ethnic minorities in there. They still want to pretend Spike Lee doesn't exist, which is just baffling to me.
His most conservative movie was probably Inside Man, and I think that got nominated for everything. And then he started going wonky again. And then he did Black Klansman, which was like, I think it was probably just right movie at the right time. I haven't seen it. Have you seen Black Klansman?
I've seen bits of it.
Is it like, it seems like it's good. I mean,
it's what I've seen is good. It's a lot more conventional,
movie.
yeah.
Yeah, and so like that's what the Academy wants. They don't want like a guy and his daughter smiling awkwardly on a freaking dolly as the dolly's moving away from a door.
They don't want Malcolm X, which is a fucking masterpiece.
Oh my god, I haven't watched it yet. I know I need to get to it.
It's so good.
I know
it's so good.
It's one of those things like I need to stop overthinking some of my movie choices. Like that's why I was able to finally watch Promising Young Woman, and there was another one I had watched recently, and like The Trial of the Chicago 7. Like I was like, all right, just put it on.
Wait, but what was the question you wanted to ask?
Yeah, where is the line between too experimental? Because I think the Academy is looking for like the good line between like this is state of the art. Okay, the line between too far future, state of the art, decently conservative to conservative. The Academy is still in the decently conservative to too conservative. They need to be in the state of the art, but I think the big fear is that they're going to nominate something that's just like way too far out there, way too inaccessible to
They're not going to nominate, Stan Brakhage, and they never will, cuz it's just not even they want to watch like just 15 minutes of painted celluloid. Like
I didn't know who it was, and then I was like, wait, is he the guy who put like dead bugs on film frame and then ran it through a camera to see what it would look like?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
Like Stan Brakhage is never getting nominated for Best Picture. Was it Kenneth Anger's never getting a Best Picture nomination? Maya Lin's never getting a Best Picture nomination, but like that's because their movies are short, too short usually, and two, they're just a lot of the time they're visual experiments. They don't have like a coherent narrative or anything.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, I think the line is like purely experimental is the line. Like, don't nominate anything that's like that. But if it's got, a story or something, but does it in an interesting way or that's like effective and eye-catching, nominate that, Or even if it's just like a big genre movie that's just really, really, really good, like Lord of the Rings or Mad Max Fury Road. I mean, neither of those movies are particularly avant-garde, except, Lord of the Rings maybe a little bit, but
Lord of the Rings dips into it a little bit. And so
Lord of the Rings,
Fury Road.
Well, actually, Lord of the Rings was avant-garde for its time. Because it's kind of a Bourne Identity type movie where like everything after, like it created a lot of cinematic ideas that were then ripped off by other movies. So in that sense, it actually did push the medium forward. Whereas like Mad Max Fury Road, I think, is a perfect example of a movie that it's not doing anything radically new, but it does everything that we take for granted perfectly.
And it's also interesting because it's such like a bombastic movie, and yet there's still a lot of subtlety that's just completely missed all the time by people.
All the time.
So I think that's funny because people are like, oh, how did Mad Max Fury Road get nominated? It's like, well, you know what? Avatar from James Cameron was nominated, and that's like that has no like subtlety at all. It is.
Mad Max Fury Road is one of the best movies ever made, so it should be nominated.
What it was nominated. What won that year? That was
Spotlight.
Oh my god!
I will forever hate Spotlight and refuse to watch it for that reason and that reason alone.
I've come around that year, and we talk about sort of like over the top acting always winning. Over the top camera work also always wins, which is why The Revenant won, but really Mad Max Fury Road should have won because it was all camera work in service. Of course, this becomes a freaking rant about Mad Max Fury Road.
It is under the wheels.
It is under the wheels. And like, again, it's probably like if you ever want to watch just like a perfect modern movie, throw on Mad Max Fury Road because the camera work is excellent. The editing is excellent. All of the performances are pretty much pitch perfect. I'm trying to think if there's anyone that isn't. The production design's amazing. The sound design is amazing. The visual effects. It made everyone obsessed with oversaturating their movies and not understanding why or what the point is. Like it's like it's a movie that has so much visual stimulus, and yet it's all done in such great controlled chaos.
Yeah.
That it took, what, like 3 or 4 years to just perfectly edit and fine tune?
Yeah, well, because they had like 200 hours of footage, and George Miller's wife, who's a documentary editor, or a documentarian, had to edit it because, you know, if you're a documentarian, you're used to editing 200 hours of footage down to like 100 minutes, 120 minutes.
My thing is, I think that most, like, in order to be a good Academy Award movie that's satisfying, it has to push movies forward in that sort of state-of-the-art manner. It has to be emotionally relevant. It does not have to reflect the time. I think a lot of people are going to get wrapped up on like, oh yeah, the movie should reflect its time period. I think it's fine if it does, but it needs to be state-of-the-art. It has to have some sort of emotional relevance or connection. And it has to be, in a merit-based system, incredibly solid and incredibly well done.
Yeah.
And I think the Academy overemphasizes the emotional aspect to the degree that it takes away from the other thing. Like, I'm never watching
It's the
Out of
emotional
Africa.
aspect and the political and social relevance aspect.
I don't even know about that, because as far as nominations are concerned, I agree. But as far as wins, I think that a lot of the time they would rather bend the knee to whatever is the most conservative, but seems like it would service the most amount of people to satisfy them, which is how you get Green Book.
How do you
as
explain
a winner.
Crash or Green Book?
Right. That's what I mean by bend the knee to, like, Crash was, they didn't want to have the gay movie win, so they had to have the racist movie win. And it's not even like, and it's like the racist movie starring Sandra Bullock and Brendan Fraser.
Well, and I guess when I say like political and socially relevant, I like put air quotes around that because
Yes.
it's like political and socially relevant, like the dumb version of that.
Right. It's the after school special. Everything's gonna be fine in the world if we, the clip, like, and they wished all of the racism away. Oh, but not all of it, because Ryan Phillippe is racist because he shoots a guy because he thinks he's reaching for a gun and he's black.
Oh,
Okay, Crash.
that's a no-no.
All right, Crash.
If we get rid of all the racist people, then racism won't exist because we don't live in a society.
And racism is logical, makes sense, and can be easily gotten rid of. See
That's the
all
most,
of
like,
these movies here.
Infuriating part. It's like bigotry is a logical and sensible thing, and if you can counter logic it, it'll go away. It's like I don't think that's how it works. I'm pretty sure racism is emotional. But whatever, Academy. You know what's
Gosh,
best.
I wish I understood racism better. See all of Spike Lee's filmography if you want to understand racism. Reasons why they won't let him into the Academy. It's like, because his speeches don't conform to any. When Spike Lee won and he was giving that speech, I had no idea what he was talking about. His Academy Award winning speech.
Yeah.
That was done in like inverse. It was very Spike Lee.
It's very Spike Lee.
He's awesome. Are we all talked out from the Academy? Can't wait till April 26th so we don't have to think about this anymore.
Well, I'm not going to think about it. I only thought about it right now because we're doing this show and I thought it would be fun. I'm never going to think about it until next year. Because like I feel like bitching about the Academy is is kind of a tradition with us. So I like to keep that up.
I appreciate it too. I feel like my perspective of it changes. I get more radicalized, but also I try to look at why does this keep happening? Why are all of the measures that the Academy are going through, why will none of them really work and really fix it? I will say I am the kind of person who does get upset when the Academy Award nominations come out, and for Best Picture there's nothing that's like a popular movie that came out, because it then makes it seem like working on popular movies is not emotionally gratifying. And maybe it's not. Maybe being able to control a budget of $120 million and turn it into some sort of coherent piece of media isn't a skill that's good to have. It's a good financial skill, but it's not a good artistic skill. And even when we see the artists who get that budget to kind of put it up, there's only a handful that do it extremely well every time.
Yeah.
Like, you know, Christopher Nolan. But I feel like it's sad that that's not encouraged as a sign of being a good artist. And I think like when I go and I see that all of the Academy Award movies are movies that no one's going to see, and then they're going to see the movies and be like, I hated this. This is awful. This made no sense. Why is it so long? Why are the camera moves so slow? They don't even know what camera moves are. Why is it so boring? It's like, yeah, Academy kind of missed the mark again. They don't understand that sometimes a good movie is a movie that's just really engaging and not necessarily, you know, I apologize if you really like The Father, because that's going to be our shit talk movie, even though we haven't seen it.
It's
so
our two
terrible.
popes. It's this year's two popes.
I feel like it's The King's Speech. And I also like The King's Speech. I feel like is a movie that is good in spite of Tom Hooper, not because of him.
Yep.
So maybe that's why I take so much like angst to it, because there's a lot of elements that work in spite of Tom Hooper being the director.
Like, it's funny, but that's kind of it.
I like the like all the scenes with Jeffrey Rush are great. A lot of the scenes with Colin Firth are really well done. When the two of them are together, it's, you know, really good. There's a couple of moments that are nailed really well, like the time he has to give that first speech and Jeffrey Rush is in there and they're doing all of the like things. Like, that is good direction. But it's also probably written into the script. Like, I don't know how, you know. I don't know. I digress. I guess my octopus teacher is going to win the Academy Award for Best Documentary. It's just in front of me, and I feel like I should see that movie. But
for some reason, when you said my octopus teacher, I thought of that video game Aquadad or Octodad. It's like, oh, Octodad's going to win an Academy Award. That's pretty cool.
See, that's the Academy pushing the state forward. State of the art, indeed. That's to be honest, that's also what I think of every time I see my octopus teacher. I just think of like the CG Octodad. I was like, it's a documentary. I thought it was some sort of like weird Japanese like hentai. Anyway, yeah. So, where can you find all of your reviews and stuff?
Underthewheels.com.
Nice.
We apologize for the placement of the ads on the website. We're trying to work that out, but all the content is still great. Underthewheels.com. Like us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter. The podcast is available on whatever you're listening. God, I get my prepositions all mixed up every time I say this. Whatever you're listening to this on right now, the podcast is available there. It's also available on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and Stitcher. Please leave a review, comment, like something. You know, if you think what we're doing is good, spread the word, tell people about it. If you think what we're doing is not so good, tell us what you'd like to see us do different. We're always open to that kind of thing.
We are open to constructive criticism. If it's just like, your website is stupid. Like, well,
we're working on it, man.
So are you.
If we didn't know that, we wouldn't be working on it.
Under the work in progress wheels.
See, unlike that guy from Mank, we know what our website is, but we're trying to fix it.
Ooh. Yes. And yeah. Music's by Mike. I don't know if you already said that.
No, I didn't say that.
If we start making money, we're going to have to find a way to pay him.
Yeah.
We should have come up with a contract beforehand so we could get it for free.
I know.
Oh. Well, anything else to add?
I think that's it.
In that case, my name is Matthew.
And I'm Gabe.
And you've just been Under the Wheels.
I can't wait for like someone to win their Oscar and give like just the cringiest, preachy political speech. Like
better than Frances McDormand's speech when she was like, "We should have whatever that was that she was talking about." When she won for 3 Billboards.
Do you remember what did she say? I don't remember.
What was it? God. It was like she said it and everyone was like cheering, and then like all of the think pieces came out afterwards, and they were like, we can't do this. This isn't viable for everyone. Like, Frances McDormand, you've been at A-list status for so long that you're just completely disconnected from everyone.
So the two that I always think of is I remember Meryl Streep when she's like, people who watch the NFL are what's wrong with America. And it's just like, go fuck yourself, Meryl Streep.
Out of all of the people.
I know. And then the one where Joaquin Phoenix is like railing against the evils of milk or something.
Ovo-lacto vegan.
It's like milk and climate change, and it's just like, what the fuck?
Cut over to Rooney Mara. She's just like nodding her head viciously, like, yes, and the next thing, and we shouldn't eat bugs in the future, even though they're a great source of protein and we can flavor them well. And yeah, no. Oh my God, Joaquin. My favorite, if I ever won an Academy Award, I would Cuba Gooding Jr. it, because I am the last person to deserve one. So I would either Cuba Gooding.
I know I have a little bit of time, so I'm going to rush and say everybody, and you cut away. I won't be mad at you. Tom said, don't forget to thank your wife. I will never forget to thank my high school sweetheart and the mother of my children, Spencer and Mason. I love you, Sarah. And my parents who are here, Shirley and Cuba the First. And God, I love you. Hallelujah. Thank you, Father God, for putting me through what you put me through, but I'm here and I'm happy. I just want to, here we go. Okay, the studio, I love you, and Cameron Crowe, and Tom Cruise, I love you, brother. I love you, man. Derek Rose, Sean Settles, Keith Butler, all my behind-the-scenes crew, Regina King, I love you. You did a great job when we made the movie. Everybody involved with the movie, I love you. Oh, my goodness. Here we are. I love you. I'm going to keep going. Harley Junior Agency, everybody, I love you. I love you all. Cameron Crowe, James L. Brooks. James L. Brooks, I love you. Everybody who's involved with this, I love you. I love you. I love you. Everybody involved.
He stood up. He jumped out of his seat. He ran onto the stage. He was like jumping. He was the happiest person in the world. He started talking and talking and talking. The music came on. He started shouting louder and louder, threw the microphone away. They had to escort him off because he was like, he was so freaking happy to win. Like, I think it was, it was almost like when Olivia Colman stole it from Glenn Close a couple of years ago for The Favorite. I think it was like a similar situation. The other one would be like the Bong Joon-ho, where he comes up and he's like, I ran out of things to say.
Yeah.
So
I mean, you could
I didn't
always
expect to win these.
You could always pull a Roberto Benigni where you get so excited you don't even like leave your seat and go to the aisle to walk to the stage. You just like walk directly, like a straight line from your seat to the stage while stomping on people.
God, that was, oh my God.
For your movie about how the Holocaust was funny. Your Holocaust comedy. Who thought that was a good idea?
It's so, like, have you actually watched Life is Beautiful?
I have not seen Life is Beautiful.
Okay. So the
but
first
I've
half,
heard it's not as bad as it sounds on paper.
the first half of the movie is a screwball comedy. And then they take this dramatic right turn, and it's like the Holocaust if it were portrayed by the 1950s.
Oh my God.
Where it's like he's in prisoner outfit, but like that whole part where he's in the concentration camps, his kid is hiding in the concentration camps, and he is entertaining his son while he's also getting malnourished and all of this stuff. But they like turn a blind eye to all of the actual atrocities of it to focus on like the father-son relationship. So it's a little yikes, but it was also 1990. It came out in like 1998 or whatever. So people were like, all right, I don't want to think of like Schindler's List every time I think of families in the Holocaust. Let's put a better face on it. But at the same time, it's like, I I think there's a little bit of emotional disconnect. Frances McDormand was talking about inclusion writers, which I don't know what those are.
I don't know what that is either. And I guess we'll never know.
Finished.